let me just explain something. So 96, 97, 98, 99, right? In fact, from 95, when the NBA was showing on Ghana television, a lot of us young guys fell in love with the game because these are young, mostly black people turning the world around. And Kobe Bryant was one of the most gifted players. And I mean, I think probably one of the most skilled of his generation, and very successful guy. We loved him. He was an icon for all of us.
Yeah.
And then to hear that not only has he died, but in such a tragic, horrific manner with his daughter in a plane crash, it's really sad. And sometimes you ask yourself, death, why? You have no shame. You know, death has no shame. Taking one of the very best that we've been gifted with. Really cool, nice guy. Of course, he had his flaws, but seriously, it's a shock to the whole world. And it's something we're talking about on the show later this morning. Who Kobe Bryant was, what he meant for us. But of course, there are other issues to discuss on the show today. So a few things to look at. I've had people call me from the financial sector say, look, the president promised that they will pay them. They haven't received their money. So what's going on? Meanwhile, information minister says the government is delivering on some of its promises, including the ambulances and stuff like that. So as time would permit, we'll get in some of those big stories for you this morning before we come up with our effective living series. But send us your comments and views on all the things that matter. 054-998-6996. And for a lot of people who wanted our local football game to be revived, yesterday was a key day. Huge game, massive turnout, good quality football. The House of Folk people say it was a controversial penalty, but at least for those of us neutrals, it was just a great game. So we welcome that as well. So maybe start with the graphic sports.
Yeah, let me start with the graphic. Let's start on the sporting note. But good morning, to you. Front page of the Daily Graphic says fabulous. Avle, Keita put hearts to sleep, and comes with a photo of victorious Kumasi Ati Kotoko players acknowledging cheers from their fans. Sonny Yakuba, Kumasi Ati Kotoko player, is also on the front page. He says, I won't sign a new contract.
Why?
Yeah, because they don't want to pay him the money he wants. And Jordan Ayew is also here. Bafana coach plots Black Stars ambush.
Now, if you go to the back page of the Ghanaian Times, Kotoko late penalty downs hearts. Oli survive raid in hard win. And if you go to the Ghanaian Times front page, big boost for healthcare service as president distributes 307 ambulances to 275 constituencies.
That's tomorrow.
Government
Tuesday.
winning anti-corruption fight. Information minister tells critics. Food and Agri Organization warns of locust invasion in northern part of Ghana. Remember what happened in East Africa?
Yeah, and you see, they are saying that what's happening could become a locust plague.
Yeah.
And a locust can eat food its body size in a day. Now think about your size. How much food can you eat in a day? So it's a crazy thing, and there are very serious threats coming from the east of Africa.
Yes. And Ghana Health Service calls for forensic probe into conduct of internal audit director. 1 killed, 6 injured, 5 arrested, 10 houses torched, renewed chieftaincy dispute in Patinga.
Front page of the Daily Graphic. Determining presidential election winner. Votes must be over 50%. 50 plus 1 constitutional misrepresentation. Constitutional misrepresentation, says Dasebre Professor Otibuati. I'll give you details on that. Sad news, Bernard. New Plan Ghana Limited shuts down January 31.
Why?
No more permits for new cement companies, says Trade Ministry.
Now, the Chronicle, don't give visas to pregnant women. U.S. directs consular sections across the world. Menchia fights minister over rep on MMDAs. Ambulance distribution starts tomorrow. And too early to speculate about Tema shooting incidents. This is the police.
Front page of the Daily Guide newspaper. Ghana's economy gets positive rating. Comes with a photo of Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Baumia. Safomafo bounces Auditor General. NDC versus EC. Plan B activated after failed demos.
The Finder, economic outlook positive. Moody says policies bearing fruits. Baumia is on the front page. Over 300 ambulances staff to be deployed tomorrow. Dr. Siama denies any wrongdoing in banking crisis. And over 65% of households in Upper East are poor. This is according to a report.
Front page of the Independent newspaper also comes with the Moody's story. Mahama Kufuor to slug it out in 3 presidential debates.
Now, the new crusading guide. Mess at Presec Staff School. Head teachers hijack PTA dues. Open market levies and examination fees. Part 1. Landguard brutalities in Bitchley. Chief fingered. State Housing Company MD woos UK investors. And Ghana Civil Aviation Authority staff demand board chairman's head.
Front page of the Daily Statesman. Positive progress. Economy hits a record best. Moody's gives Ghana its most upbeat investor rating in a decade. Preacher of peace. A sober ACP Agojos Damascus conversion.
Now,
are you kidding me?
Yes, that is the front page.
Wow.
Now, the Economy Times. Only 6 out of 24 funds and trusts have fund managers. Monetary policy improves as T-bills lending rates drop by 9.3% and 3.4%. PIAC's work can be politically influenced. This is an energy industry watcher.
Front page of the Daily Heritage newspaper. Cabinet didn't support HIPIC initially. This is former President Kufuor. Also on the front page, lawyer-prosecutor clash, and that is lawyer Victor Kojoga Adaudu.
Now, the Gold Street business, $1.2 trillion global mice market still eluding Ghana. This is meetings, incentives, conferences, and events. The paper says that Ghana is not really making any strides in that particular area. Financial stocks lead stock market rebound, and beneficial ownership implementation begins.
Front page of the BNFT. United States gives $3 million to beef up law enforcement. Moody's changes Ghana's outlook to positive from stable, affirms B3 rating.
Now, let me take you online. I'll start in China because the lead stories are on the coronavirus and also on Kobe Bryan. So the South China Morning Post says Chinese Premier Li Keqiang arrives in Wuhan to fight coronavirus. Also, WHO chief arrives in China for talks on the virus. Now, death toll at 80 as China bans wildlife trade in attempt to halt this virus. And then they also have a lead story. Former Lakers lead the way as China mourns Kobe Bryan. So that's all the way in China.
He's huge.
Now let me go to the Washington Post. They say a tireless. So the Washington Post is really like the newspaper for the establishment in Washington, right? So a tireless competitor who became a global sports icon. That's their front page. And then they also say Bryant accomplished so much, it's devastating to consider what he still had left to do. And then Bryant's death reverberates beyond sports. These are their stories. Then I'll take you to, I'm starting global before I come local, right? The LA Times, which is really where it's from.
Local paper,
And the story is just big. Kobe Bryant's daughter Gianna among 9 dead in helicopter crash. Fed search for cause. And then Lopez, who is the someone in LA, a presumably important person, says, Bryant was LA, our dreams, our sweat, and the drive that unites a far-flung city. And then other stories that I find interesting. Fans mourn around the world, nowhere more than his childhood home of Italy, right? And then they're also saying dense fog impaired visibility in the time of crash. And of course, if you come to the BBC, basketball great Bryant dies in helicopter crash. That's quite a generic one there. And then Democrats want John Bolton to testify. That's something that's happening. Now, let me take you to some of the stories Ghana-wise. Moody backs government to break election year overspending cycle. This is citybusinessnews.com. In terms of their Moody's latest release. Also, government embarks on Eurobond roadshow to raise $3 billion. Kenneth Ferrata holding his brown bag again. Yes. Meanwhile, mango farmers seek government support to tackle black bacteria disease. That's also on citybusinessnews.com. If you go to City Newsroom itself, Ghana card registration begins in Western, North, and Central regions today. Keep an eye on that. Ghana ambassador to meet Chinese officials today over coronavirus outbreak. And then EC is denying a story that says they've imported faulty biometric devices. Meanwhile, Information Minister says 307 ambulances to be dispatched from Tuesday. So these are some of the stories making the headlines on citynewsroom.com, myjoyonline.com. Finance Minister refused to save Unibank, according to Dr. Isiama. So that's something to keep an eye on. Dr. Isiama sent a 5-page press release yesterday, which contained a lot of things. Meanwhile, the other story, a brief history of how Hearts inspired the formation of Kotoko, and how they became arch rivals. And then government efforts at fighting corruption paying off, according to Kojo Opon Nkrumah. Let me just give you the final one. Ghana News Agency quickly. President Akufo-Addo to visit Saudi Arabia. Gambaga Girls SHS abolishes double track system. And second lady launches cervical cancer campaign. Kojo, what do you want us to start from?
I want to start from page 48
of the
Daily Graphic.
What is going on there?
Galamsey.
Is it?
Let's kill this monster before it kills
us. It's a special feature.
It's a special feature, but there's an interaction I want to highlight for you. This is by Timothy Nyengbe. And everybody should get a copy of the Daily Graphic and go to page 48.
Some very good pictures in there.
Yes. Now, Bernard, let me just read the intro, then I'll read this conversation for you. The otherwise green vegetation has been wiped off. Hundreds of trees lie lifeless. The dark, rich, nutritious soil of the forest has also been peeled off. In its place are deep gullies and pits that lie between the heaps of excavated soil. Now, Bernard, this is an interaction that took place between Kweku Asomachreme,
the minister,
and the manager of the Forestry Services Department of the Bekwai Forestry District, Mr. Ares Fortune Damwa. Case that is Kweku Asomachreme. How did the illegal miners destroy this forest reserve like this? According to the forest ministry man, they entered this forest reserve from January 2 this year. I led my men to this place, but we realized that they had 9 armed soldiers who prevented us from stopping the illegal miners.
They had 9 armed soldiers.
Yes. Then the minister comes in. I am reliably informed that this illegality is being carried out by the Chinese. Of course, it is being facilitated by some Ghanaians. Is this the case? The forestry official. Yes, the Chinese are doing it with the support of big men. And what did you do, says the minister? I made some contacts and I was advised to back out to avoid any confrontation and possible clashes with the armed men. I reported the issue to the Yakubu police and also contacted Operation Vanguard team at Obuasi. We came back to the forest reserve a few days later using another route and were able to stop the illegal miners. We pulled out 8 excavators and arrested 2 Chinese nationals that day. According to this is the minister. And where are the Chinese nationals and the excavators that you seized? Forestry official. The Chinese were taken to the Yakubu police station but were granted bail. We kept the excavators at a nearby community close to this reserve, but it amazes me that when we got here this morning, 6 of the excavators could not be found. We have pictures to show this. Minister, you are aware that the mining laws say all equipment and machines that are confiscated must be in the custody of the Lands and Natural Resources Minister. Why did you not inform me about this equipment?
Good.
The man is silent, in a tense mood. He broke the silence after a while and went on to say that Galamsey was being facilitated by powerful and big men who sent their boys to destroy the forest. We know they are boys, but investigations are still going on, so we cannot put names out now. This is the interaction that went on between the minister and the Forestry Services Department.
This is very serious.
Yes, Bernard.
And I think the military high command needs to come in here, because even 9 armed military people were being used by Chinese to perpetrate an illegality, and the Forestry Commission is reporting to the ministry. I'm hoping the minister is going to write to the Minister of Defense and ask for a specific investigation into who these soldiers were, who allowed them to do this operation, whether it was a sanctioned operation, and also who ordered the removal of the 6 excavators.
Bernard, if you call on this show, I have told you that there's a huge issue with the excavators. This is not the first time you're hearing this from me.
Yeah.
Anytime they seize the excavators,
somebody comes
to take the excavators.
So, and the other point is that the Minister for Environment has also been making comments about what he wants to do. So this is a good material for us to further investigate.
Bernard,
so that's the first story.
Let's note last week you read a story of someone saying his land in Sawam was being encroached upon.
Yes.
Yesterday he sent me pictures. 15 hectares
of his land
has been destroyed by illegal sand winners. And this person went to the police, went to the DC, went to different people. I think the state is incompetent in dealing with these issues.
And if you deal with the story we read about the land gas in Bechile as well. So what's happening is
and the
that
chief in
the official state sanctioned security seem helpless in dealing with this layer of illegality when it comes to land mining and some of these resources. And we need to wake up.
Now the minister in charge of lands and natural resources says that any Galamsey operator caught will be thrown into jail for 25 years. He was on a working visit in the Talensi district when he made this statement. Now I'll take you to the center spread of the Ghanaian Times. Big boost for healthcare service. President distributes 307 ambulances tomorrow. Now the story by Jonathan Donko says emergency healthcare service in the country is to receive a major boost from tomorrow, as all is set for the distribution of the much-awaited 307 ambulances by the President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. The Minister of Information, Kojo Ponkroma, told journalists at a briefing in Accra yesterday that all preparations needed to be done, which delayed the release of the vehicles for some weeks, had been completed.
Now, a round of economic stories quickly. So the Moody's, which is one of the credit agencies, has sent out their latest analysis of Ghana.
Yes, and on page 3 of the BNFT, you find that the Moody's changes Ghana's outlook to positive from stable, a first B3 rating. And according to the details of the story, Moody's Investor Services at the weekend affirmed Ghana's long-term issuer and senior unsecured bond ratings are B3 and changed the outlook to positive from stable. Moody's has concurrently and affirmed the rating of the bond, enhanced by a partial guarantee from the International Development Association at B1. The decision to assign a positive outlook reflects Moody's rising confidence that the country's institutions and policy settings will foster improved macroeconomic and fiscal stability over the medium term, in part as a consequence of the reforms implemented under the recent IMF reform program.
Now, splendid. Now, two stories which are still on the economy, still on Citi Business News. Government embarks on Eurobond roadshow to raise $3 billion. Now, I'm bringing you this story because the finance minister is the lead person there, because there's also a reaction on the banking thing from former deputy governor accusing the finance minister. So let's go to the first one. Government plans for borrowing up to $3 billion from the Eurobond market to support the 2020 budget will commence this week as a delegation led by the finance minister embarks on a series of meetings with investors. Ken Ofori-Atta, who got the approval of Parliament to raise up to $3 billion on the Eurobond market to support the execution of this year's budget, will be meeting investors from Europe as well as North America. Now, a source at the Ministry told Citi Business News the final amount the government will raise will depend on the interest rate investors are willing to provide. Then his name comes up. So this is going for money, right? Former Deputy Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Johnson Siama, is blaming Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta for the collapse of Unibank. Now, according to him, who is the former Deputy Governor, Mr. Ofori-Atta allegedly declined to act on a suggestion he, a Siama prophet for the struggling bank. Now, don't forget, this is coming on the back of a denial by some officials of a claim attributed to Mr. Siama, right, that Republic Bank wanted to buy Unibank, and Republic Bank came to say no, we didn't say we were going to buy Unibank. So Mr. Siama has sent out a press release now trying to explain his version of what happened. He says the Minister of Finance was actually invited to the bank based on my prompting to discuss these payments to Unibank, but he declined suggestions on the grounds that Unibank had gotten enough support to thrive. Dr. Siama revealed in a statement issued over the weekend. He added that clearly, if at least part of these payments were done at the time, Unibank could have avoided the persistent daily clearing failures that eventually shut them out of the interbank market.
Now, the finder gives us more. And in the finder, they quote him that we only acted to prevent a possible larger crisis that would have impacted negatively on the entire banking industry. Now, he explained that in early 2016, the Bank of Ghana was informed that Unibank was experiencing persistent liquidity crisis and was borrowing heavily on a daily basis on the interbank market. Unibank, he said, informed the regulator that they were experiencing large withdrawals from key institutions such as the Ghana Cocoa Board, Volta River Authority, and Ecobank Development Corporation and Data Bank. And according to him, Cocoa Board was withdrawing over 400 million Ghana cedis, while the bank also had to finance the outstanding VRA facility of about $100 million. He said that the central bank was made to believe that Unibank had a number of government and government-related receivables totaling over 1.3 billion Ghana cedis on account of its large exposure to the energy and construction sectors.
All right.
Which was confirmed in an asset quality review.
So let's just tell people that the background to this is that Dr. Siama and Dr. Kwabena Dufour Sr. as well as his son Dr. Dufour Jr. have been invited by the Special Investigation Team of the Police Service for interrogation regarding their respective roles leading to the collapse of the bank.
Okay, Bernard, let me take you back to the Daily Graphic and page 16. Two big stories there. Neoplan Ghana Limited shuts down January 31 and no more permits for new cement companies according to the Trade Ministry. Let me give you the Neoplan story first. Neoplan Ghana Limited, one of the country's surviving coach manufacturing businesses in the 1970s, has announced a total shutdown on Friday, January 31, 2020 because it is no longer viable. A memo to all staff of the company in Accra and Kumasi announcing the closure of the company, which was established on December 12, 1974, cites the lack of contracts and recurring monthly losses as reasons for the shutdown. The company said the last time it was given a government contract was in 2002, which ended in 2010 and saw the production of 450 DAF VDL buses for the Metro Mass Transit Limited. Now, this has been confirmed by one Mr. Nasa. Now, according to him, said the decision had been informed by the inability of the minority shareholder, the Fadul Group, to continue funding the company all by itself, while the government, which was the majority shareholder, contributed nothing to its running. In the past 6 to 7 years, we have been running the company ourselves without any contribution from the government. In 2016, we asked the government to buy additional shares from them so that we can finance the company ourselves. In 2016, we paid them for the shares. They didn't even give us the shares, and they kept the money with them. And as aspirated Mr. Nasa said, adding that the money paid for the shares was $173,000.
So that the company has ceased to exist.
Yes. Now, according to Mr. Nasser, again, he gives a bit more detail. He said the company had tried everything, including asking the government to stop importing coaches and allow them to produce robust and quality buses locally.
The story of our life.
Since it had the capacity, as well as reduce import duties on parts they needed, but all had been to no avail. Yet we continued financing the company until 2019, and then the chairman of the minority shareholders said
sometimes
we should stop.
I wonder whether we really want to industrialize, but that's a different question. There was a second story I wanted to read.
Yes. Now, the 100 people are losing their jobs on this particular one, 100.
But
now, no more permits for new cement companies, and this is coming from Carlos Ahenkra, who says the Ministry of Trade and Industry has placed a ban on the issuance of permits to companies that want to set up cement processing plants in the country. It is also taking steps to halt the importation of the product as part of measures to protect and encourage the growth of existing cement processing companies. Speaking at the Customer Awards dinner of a cement manufacturer, CIMAF, Mr. Henko observed that the temporary ban and the restrictions on imports were meant to support the current 8 cement manufacturers that operated in unfair competition.
It's an interesting story attributed to Carlos Ahenkra on my journal. It says, it's election year. Find civilized ways of dealing with squatters. MP tells Tema West Assembly. That's pretty interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, but I won't go into that. Could you let me give you 2 more stories because I want to wrap up with
international. So if you go to the Finder, 1 dead, 10 houses burnt in renewed Patinga conflict. Wow. The story says at least 1 person has been confirmed dead and 5 others injured in renewed chieftaincy conflict at Patinga in the Gushegu district in the northern region. On the same page, we are also told that agribusiness boot camps equips 600 students. We are still in the Operation Feed Yourself season, and
600 students on agribusiness boot camp.
Yes, and this boot camp is called the Agric Students Career Guidance and Mentorship Dialogue.
Let me give you
trained over 600 students.
2 running stories to do with registration and voting. Ghana card registration begins in Western, North and Central regions today. This is citynewsroom.com, and this is just what the story says. Chief Executive Ken Ofrata said the NIA will, as part of the exercise, open 323 centers in the Western region, 138 in Western North region, and then they would start on April. They started on April 29, 2019. There are 4 more regions to complete the exercise by end of March this year, which is the 31st March, right? Then we haven't imported faulty biometric devices according to the EC. That's also on the same website. The Electoral Commission has denied the publication, suggesting that it has imported faulty biometric voter registration devices from Nigeria to Ghana. The publication, which according to the EC was written by one Oula Mangote, claimed among other things that surveillance was mounted on 2 vehicles carrying 7,000 new biometric voter devices and 2,800 old ones, one of which moved to the Electoral Commission from the Osu Castle at 1 a.m.
There's a link to that story on the front page of the Herald. Bernard, quickly. Imani exposes massive conflict of interest at EC, indicts IT consultants in 400 million Ghana Cedi new voters register procurement deal.
All right, now let me just tell you a few things happening in Africa. Arms pour into Libya despite embargo. This is the front page of the East African, and it's a really troubling story because what happens in Libya trickles down to Mali and the Sahel, and inevitably to Burkina Faso, which is just our next door neighbor. Now, if you go to China's front page, the South China Morning Post, they are saying China bans wildlife trade as Wuhan coronavirus spreads, death toll climbs. Order goes into effect immediately and will be strictly enforced. Government agencies warn, but temporary restrictions will not solve the underlying problem, animal rights activists say. So that's just to let you know that their suspicion is that the first transmission came from an animal. So China has issued a blanket ban on the wildlife trade on Sunday as the country struggles to contain deadly virus thought to have jumped from animals to humans. Health authorities have linked exotic animals sold at a seafood market in the central city of Wuhan to the new coronavirus, which has killed 80 people and infected more than 2,500 others within China and spread around the world. We'll try and get some health education for listeners on this, because one of the reasons why this is serious is that we're told that the virus can transmit before showing. Right, so there are certain things that will show that you have it before they quarantine you, but you can have it, it will transmit to somebody else before it shows, which is why it's a big challenge. Then, of course, globally, everybody's talking about Kobe Bryan, and the Washington Post says Bryant, known late in his career by the nickname the Black Mamba, was one of the smoothest and most dangerous shooters in the league. A 5-time NBA champion and a 2-time gold medalist of the Olympics. He was considered one of the greatest basketball players of his generation. But let me read the LA Times story, because I think that they will
capture it best.
They will capture it. This is from California, and this is South California we're talking about. So the story is, I think, put together by the whole team, led by Richard Winton, Dan Woik, about 6 authors writing one story.
Yeah, that's that work is a 2-time Pulitzer
and
Prize
then
winner.
Sonali Kohli, Tanya Ganguly, and Ben Potson. So 5 or 6 artists. Kobe Bryan, the legendary basketball star who spent 20 years with the Lakers, was killed Sunday morning when the helicopter he was traveling in crashed amid foggy conditions and burst into flames in the hills of California above Calabasas. His daughter Gianna, 13, was also on board. NBA officials confirmed. LA County Sheriff Alex Villanueva said 9 people were on the copter, a pilot and 8 passengers. He would not confirm who had died up until all the next of kin had been notified. He said the LA County Coroner's Office Sunday night said the recovery effort is expected to take several days because of the conditions of the crash site and its remote locations. Officials have shut down roads leading to the site because of a throng of visitors trying to get there. He also said that he didn't think it was appropriate for the death of people to be announced by TMZ, and that he wasn't going to mention anybody's names, but that nobody survived in the copter crash. Now the helicopter is a Sikorsky 776B built in 1991, and we're told that that's a typical way of travel for Bryant because of the traffic in California. And I think they were going for a game because some other people confirmed that there was another parent and another young girl in the vehicle. The crash occurred at 10 a.m. near a place in Calabasas, and then the details are then given. Of course, his legacy, Barack Obama has tweeted, Magic Johnson has tweeted, everybody is in shock, and we'll see how that works later on.
Yeah, and the Lakers play tomorrow.
Yeah,
it's going to be something else.
Yeah, we'll see. But thank you guys for being on the show this morning. We'll have you back. That was Kojo and Godfred. Coming up next is the Citi Business News. Stay with us.
This is the Citi Breakfast Show, the city's biggest conversation.